Hello and welcome back to another episode of Civilization Reborn. I know it's been a little while since the last one. As you can see, if you haven't seen the last episode, the Americas are a little sparsely populated. There's a bunch of countries missing. This is because in the last episode there was a huge plague that absolutely ruined both the Americas. It didn't spread to Asia. Today's episode we're going to be focusing on Asia and Europe. So first we're going to start with China. We're going to focus in on China. And what is China going to do? Well, China is going to invade its neighbors. And who's the first neighbor who's going to be invaded? Well, that's going to be this little southern guy right here. You may remember a while back these guys were invaded by their neighbors and were actually quite larger. But they aren't anymore, and they're actually quite weak now. So, Red China is going to take advantage of this, and they're going to move troops across the border of this little guy. They're going to instantly capture two major cities here, and they're going to threaten the capital. The troops are going to move further south, instantly capturing major cities and threatening the capital. As their troops get closer and closer to the capital, they're also going to go over here and capture two major cities. And then finally, they capture the capital, and these guys surrender. Peace treaty is China completely takes over this country. This country is no more of these guys, no more of these guys. Completely gone. Rest in peace to them. But that isn't the end of Red China's conquest. They're also going to invade these orange guys down here. And the reason for that is, well, they want more people. They want to be like the dominant power in East Asia. They're currently in a close second with Korea up here, but second isn't good enough for them. They want to completely overtake Korea, and so they are going to invade their neighbors. So, war breaks out, and troops cross over the border, instantly capturing many major cities and sending the countryside of this orange country into a panic as red Chinese troops get closer and closer to the capital and capture many more big cities, which is not good for these guys. But they are able to push back a little bit and capture this or capture these two major cities, but it isn't enough. Red China snakes around this way and captures many more major cities. This is also, I believe, a very valuable farmland IRL. They're also losing a lot of farmland, so not good for them. Red China's forces continue to advance, and eventually they make it to the sea. They capture a lot of major cities, and then eventually Orange China is no more. The peace treaty once again is going to be complete and total annexation. The Orange Chinese country is no more. Once again, the reason for this is China wants to grow larger and stronger than the Koreans. They want to become their rivals. Well, they are their rivals already, but they want to surpass their rivals and maybe one day invade Korea. Once again, Red China's conquest is not complete. They want to gain more and more land and eventually take over all of the Chinese area, or what we would today call the Chinese area. So they are going to invade these little brown guys here. Their troops are going to cross over the border and instantly take a few major cities. They're going to go downwards and capture a whole lot of major cities, invade from over here, capture more major cities, and threaten the capital, and then also go south and continue capturing more major cities. Now, the Chinese aren't the only ones out for land grabs in this war. The Vietnamese also want a little more land, and they can't really go that way, so they're going to go upwards and invade into this country, which kind of makes China angry, but, well, what are they going to do? Well, I mean, they could invade them, but they don't really want to do that right now. Vietnamese troops are going to cross over the border and take a few major cities, where you're going to go up and meet up with the Chinese. And the Chinese troops have orders not to attack Vietnamese troops to avoid a war, so they're going to not attack the Vietnamese troops. But they are, however, going to attack these little small brown guys and capture a few more major cities. These two troops are going to link up over here and threaten the capital before going down this way and cutting the capital off from this major city over here. The Vietnamese are going to take more major cities before they meet up with the Red Chinese. And then eventually the Red Chinese are going to take the capital and the rest of this country will fall. So yeah, let's take a look at that peace treaty. So in this peace treaty, China is going to take this half of the brown country, and Vietnam is going to get this half. They're also going to expand their borders a little bit over this way, so there isn't just like a bunch of ugly border gore. But that war won't be the last war China fights, for they still have one more smaller country to conquer, and that smaller country is going to be these brown Chinese here. So, China is going to declare war on southern China. Their troops are going to move over the border and capture this major city down here. They're also going to go and capture these few major cities over here. They then also move their troops across their border over here, snake down the border of Vietnam, so Vietnam doesn't get any ideas of invasion. And then they're going to move down here and take these major cities, or they're going to move some troops and do a naval landing of Han Island and completely take it over. The Chinese are going to continue invading the southern Chinese and taking more and more cities until the southern Chinese only own the coast. The Chinese start moving up the coast, take a few major cities, and eventually their capital, which is not good. So, and before the Chinese can take over the southern Chinese's capital, the government officials, or well, like the monarchy, or like the king and queen, they flee to Taiwan, which is owned by them. The Chinese don't like that, so China is going to move their troops across the Taiwan Strait and do a naval invasion of Taiwan. They want to capture the king and queen of the brown Chinese. The king and queen of the southern Chinese were told by a spy that the Chinese were going to invade Taiwan. So instead of going to this city right here, they sailed south and went to this city right there. From there, they sailed downwards and into the Philippines. So when the Chinese troops move in and take over Taiwan, the king and queen are nowhere to be found, which upsets China. But at this point, they don't want to invade the Philippines because naval invasions are kind of hard. So they draft up a peace treaty in which they take over the southern Chinese, Han Island, and Taiwan. And the southern Chinese are now the Philippine are now Filipino, and their capital is now in the Philippines. And now we move up here to the Koreans. The Koreans see China's conquest and they're like, hey, we can't let this happen because now China is the strongest country in Asia, and we were the strongest country in Asia. What the hell? So they are going to look to Japan. They're like, hey, let's take Japan. So they start drafting up plans to invade Japan one nation at a time, because as you can see, the main like little bit of Japan is like 4 different nations, and the Koreans only own this little island. So the Koreans are going to first invade this island over here and completely take it over. Good for them. They're then going to invade the mainland Japan and completely take it over. They capture the capital, and then they push northwards and completely take over this country. And then they move into this other orange country, and they roll through it easy peasy. There's not much of resistance because Japan is mostly populated with farmers, and in real life, Japan is actually is like really mountainous, so it's kind of hard to have a really big population like over here in Korea and China. But whatever. And then finally, the Koreans push northwards and completely take over this small little country here. And then they decide, hey, that's enough. We're good. But this sadly does not place them above China, in which this makes them mad. But they can't really do anything at the moment. And then, in an attempt to piss Korea off even more, China claims this huge chunk of land, which succeeds in pissing Korea off because they're like, wow, what the hell? Also, while all that's going on, Myanmar expands a little bit, so good for them. And now we move downwards and into Indonesia. This red Indonesian country, they want to expand more. They want to control more of the Indonesian archipelago, I think it's called. So what they're going to do is they're going to navally invade this country, or this green Bornean country. So first they're going to send troops across this little strait here from this island and land on the beaches, and they quickly capture this city over here. They go upwards and threaten the capital, and then go downwards and take another major city down here. They then push up and take these 2 major cities, and then continue along the coast and take these 2 major cities over here. And then more troops are going to be sailed across these waters over here, and they're going to land in this northern area and capture 3 major cities. and they're going to threaten the capital even more. Meanwhile, these guys over here are seeing this, and they're like, huh, I wonder if we can get in on that. And so they do. These red guys quickly take advantage of this to move their troops across the border and take this city over here. And then they move downwards, down the coast, and take these two major cities, which kind of pisses off the Indonesians a little bit. And then up here, the purple guys are also going, and then up here, the purple guys are going to invade into the green Borneo country and capture two major cities over here. They're also going to join up with these red guys over here, and then eventually they meet up with the Indonesians, and they're like, hey, and they're like, hey, and then they go back to ignoring each other, and then the Indonesians invade more and capture more of Green Borneo, and then quickly move up and capture the capital, which is bad for them. And then the Green Borneans surrender just before the purple guys go in and take over more territory. So now let's look at the peace treaty. So in this peace treaty, these purple guys, they take over these two major cities. These red guys, they take over this over here. And then because they were able to capture this little city over here, they get this and all this, which is a kind of a big blow to the Indonesians because they wanted to expand over or because they wanted to expand more eastwards. But as you can see, they got most of the coastline of the Green Country, and then they also got that. So yeah, that is the peace treaty. So yeah, that is the peace treaty. The Green Country no longer exists. So now we're going to move on with some exploration, which hasn't happened in this area in quite a while. So these Indonesian guys, they're going to start exploring eastwards, and they're going to sail over here, and they discover these little islands over here. They also then sail upwards and discover this little island, or this K-looking island over here. And they're like, oh wow, that's kind of cool. And then they continue to sail east and continue discovering a bunch more islands. They're like, oh wow, this is all so cool. And eventually they sail over here and find Papua New Guinea, which is like, wow, one really giant island. That's so cool. We always wanted to find a really giant island. But yeah, they explore more of the coast of Papua New Guinea, and they're like, oh wow. And eventually they discover the whole thing. They send a huge team of explorers in, and the team of explorers map through the dense jungle. And then they also sail over here, but then they're like, hey, let's kind of call it a day. We found a lot already. And these guys are like, okay. And so on the way back, they sail, but then they kind of lose off course and they drift over and find this huge new landmass. And they're like, holy crap. And so they discover it and they bring their ships more down the coast. And they're like, oh, wow, this is like really huge. There's a lot of land here. And eventually they're like, oh, this might be a new continent. Wow. And they're right. They discover Australia and are like, wow, cool. There's a bunch of big spiders here and crocodiles and other really big bugs. So you know what we're going to do? We're not going to colonize Australia, but we are going to colonize all of these islands over here because we like islands. We are an island nation. And so they do. They colonize all these islands over here, but they don't really go over into Papua New Guinea at all because a breakaway group of explorers say, hey, we don't really want to live under these guys anymore. So let's create our own country. And so they do. And they basically claim all of Papua New Guinea and a few islands over here. They also claim these islands up here. They also claim the coastline of Australia, but they don't really go in more or further inland out of fear of really giant bugs, and of course the infamous Australian outback. That's kind of a death trap for them at this moment. So they don't go further into Australia, but that is where they stay for now. And to end off today's video, we are going to have Green India invade the Tamil Kings. I think Green India is just slightly stronger than the Tamil Kings, so yeah, it's going to be a little hard for them. But anyways, on with the war. Green Indian troops move over the border and instantly capture these two major cities. They then push downwards and are able to capture this city over here and then this city over here. Green India continues pushing downwards ever so slowly, but they are still pushing. At this major city right here, there's a really big battle between the Indians and the Tamil Kings, and it results in an Indian victory, and this causes a huge blow to the Tamil Kings' army and makes them significantly weaker, which means the Green Indians can now push in without much resistance. And yeah, basically are able to squeeze the Tamil Kings out of India, and then that's not enough. They want even more land. They they send their troops across this little strait over here and into Sri Lanka and capture the whole island. And the Tamil Kings are no more, and it is complete annexation by Green India, which means now there's only three major powers in the Indian subcontinent. So that is going to do it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Civilization Reborn. I should hopefully be able to get on a somewhat normal upload schedule. School has started, and that has kind of, mess things up a little bit. But also, I wanted to enjoy my last few weeks of summer before they ended. New videos should be coming out soon. I'm trying to get to 500 subscribers by the end of the year. I know it was originally 1,000, but that's looking a lot less likely. So I'm changing it to 500. Hopefully, we can hit that by the end of the year. Though I am going to need to start uploading a lot more videos for that to happen to get like a bigger audience. So hit that subscribe button, like, comment. That helps boost the algorithm or helps boost the video in the algorithm. Share if you want to. I guess I don't know if you would want to share my content, but okay. But yeah, thanks for watching this video. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.